Hello, YouTube. My name is Alan, and it's that time again. Let's talk metal. This episode, we're doing one of the most basic things on this channel. We're going to check out some obscure heavy metal singles, specifically from the new wave of British heavy metal. It's been a hot minute since I did a video on these. You talk a little tech thrash, you thank people for some VCLT, you ponder the state of metal, and before you know it, a bunch of months have gone by and you haven't gone back and just shown some records and played some clips, which is what we'll do here. I've picked out three singles that I don't think I've ever featured clips from on the channel before, so we'll talk a little bit about them and check them out. Up first for this set is going to be the band Demon Pact, who operated in the greater London area in the early 80s. This one pairs the songs Raiders with Eaten Alive and comes in the picture sleeve with, yeah, sort of a, I want to say they stole this from like a D&D type manual with the sort of demon succubus character, as released on the Slime label. Kind of a cool label design in 1981. We'll check out a little bit of each song. And again, I may skip forward in the songs to get past sort of, just the intro riffs and such. First up, let's hear a clip from Eaten Alive.
Look her over, tasty meat, lonely legs, bum rest. You are the butcher, it's beef and best. You never thought that she'd eat you alive. You walk her over, ask her to dine. Smile sweetly, she'll cut up your rind. Sits down, what long teeth she has, the better to eat with. This meal is your last. You never thought that she'd eat you alive.
All right, so yeah, we hear right away Demon Pact operates in a pretty rough and raw style, especially by new wave of British heavy metal standards. They're drawing from the tougher side of things, had some appeal to the biker side of the audience. And, I think there's a little bit of, just, a kind of, raw, primitive, even AC/DC vibe to them to a point. Let's check out the flip side, Raiders.
Down in the city, west side of town, troubles of pity when your head hits the ground. Shattering glass, fists flying high. You're one of the raiders, so am I. Look out for the raiders coming through the skies. Look out for the raiders. Don't ask them why.
Yeah, so a little more melody there, but still, yeah, really kind of cool, biting guitar tone. Uh, in the same vein as the first track. Demon Pact only got the one single released back in the day. There were some demos and such, and the band has gotten the anthology treatment in later years. I have one of the Demon Pact anthologies. This one was done on High Roller Records, and as you can see, has a lot of extra tracks to it. It's got really nice packaging, which we've come to expect from High Roller. It's a gatefold cover, has some inserts and all that good stuff too. So yeah, there is more Demon Pact material out there available for folks to check out if that one appeals to them. My personal favorite memory associated with the Demon Pact single has nothing to do with the music on it. One day while in grad school, I don't know if it was a new wave of British heavy metal book, or I feel like it was like a mail order catalog I'd gotten from a vinyl dealer. And it was open to a page that just happened to show the Demon Pact's picture sleeve that I showed a second ago. And one of the professors walked into my office. It was just like checking up on something. We're chatting, and he kind of just, casually looks down at the table where I had, that book open. And he just kind of went like, "Ooh, Demon Pact." And just the way he said it was hilarious. It was kind of like "Ooh, I just found a quarter." I have no idea why the picture caught his attention and why he felt the need to comment on it. in this goofy, like, like, ooh, we're having lasagna for dinner kind of very happy, excited voice about it. Quite hilarious. Never made any sense. Like the single, again, it's kind of unique. There are other new wave of British heavy metal bands that work in that rougher kind of sounding terrain, but they can be few and far apart. So they did have kind of a unique sound for their time. The single's always been a little hard to find, but it's never been like one of the really top rarities. If you're interested in finding a copy of it, it won't be the hardest thing to track down. Might take a little while, but yeah, I don't think copies have ever got up into like the $100 range. I could be a little outdated on that. Sometimes these things go up and I don't always notice. But yeah, it's always been more of like one of those kind of mid-tier rarities, but a really cool and collectible single nonetheless. All right, moving on to band number two for this video. It's an outfit called After Dark. And After Dark got a couple of things released. They were not a one single and done kind of band. Their first release, also from 1981, same year as Demon Pact, is a three-track, 7-inch EP. That's called Evil Woman. Has their logo and this kind of distinctive, funny picture of a dragon's face on it. Um, it's not really a scary dragon. I'm not really sure what they were going for in terms of the art direction here. It almost looks more like some kind of weird paper mache dragon. I don't know. But yeah, let's check out what they sound like. There are three tracks on this one. We'll play a little bit of the quote unquote title track, Evil Woman. All right, so yeah, good dose of Evil Woman there. You can tell right away After Dark is operating with one foot still kind of planted in the 1970s. All the musicians involved had been in bands during the 1970s, so it makes some sense. And this is still just 1981. It's not like it came out in 1989 or something. Yeah, between the organ, just the overall vocal style and delivery, they're sometimes compared to White Spirit. I think there's definitely a comparison to be made there towards like Coverdale era Deep Purple, probably an influence as well. Not a bad track though. Really like the vocalist. He's got a good soulful kind of approach. So yeah, it's a solid song. The two on the flip side are okay. They're not bad tracks, they're just not the most memorable tracks either. Now, I mentioned the band had more than just this one three-track 7-inch EP. In 1983, they released a 7-inch picture disc. And there weren't a lot of 7-inch picture discs that came out during the new wave of British heavy metal. There are a handful of them, but always liked the design for this one. Pretty simple, warrior on horse with the logo again. And then on the back, telling you it's on Laser Records, there's that goofy looking dragon again. They kept that around. And notice it does say that two promotional tracks from the album Masked by Midnight. So this was meant to be sort of an advance single to help promote an upcoming LP. More on that in a minute. But first, let's check one of the songs here from this single. Let's check out a clip of Deathbringer. All right, so on this track, we hear them operating in a little bit of a heavier style. It sounds a little more stripped down. You don't hear the organ. So it seems like, they've gotten a tad heavier since 1981. The flip side, though, Call the Wild, now that track is more similar to the earlier material. It's kind of a power ballad arrangement, shows off the vocal chops once again really nicely. But yeah, it doesn't quite have the same punch to it that Deathbringer does. So, yes, this was supposed to be an advance for an LP I mentioned. And a quick side note here, I think my copy has yellowed a little bit with age. It was never perfectly white, even when I got it in the mid 1990s. The flip side is a little brighter. It's still not, pure white. But yeah, I think this one, has picked up a little coloration over time. But yeah, so back to the album. It probably comes as no surprise that the album never did get released in 1983. The band eventually fell apart. And so, yeah, it was always just one of those kind of goofy situations where they had advertised an album, had a title for an album, but there was no album. Except they did record the album. The tapes were made. They just, I guess, never got the right offer or the right record deal for it. And so it sat unreleased for about 12 years. And later, one of the band members was in a job where he had access to people in the recording industry. I don't know what his actual job was, but bottom line, he was able to secure the tapes that had the album on it. And that was right around the time when some labels were starting to get interested in releasing some of this old new wave of British heavy material. So the timing lined up well, and he was able to finally get the Masked by Midnight album released. I think it came out on a small German label. I didn't check the title of it or the name of the label before sitting down to record this. I used to have a copy of it. It came out on CD. It may have been pressed on vinyl by now. Not sure. It's not bad, and it shows the band operating in the same general style. There's no, drastic deviation from anything that they've done on the singles. Had a couple of really good songs on it. Most of it, like the songs we heard, they're decent, but they're never going to win awards as, best new wave of British heavy metal band ever. They were good at what they did, decent songwriters, just not really quite up there on that, A tier for many folks. I'm sure there are diehard After Dark fans out there, and that's absolutely awesome. So yeah, it was cool that the album got a release. I did check it out. I don't own it anymore. I eventually traded it to somebody else who wanted to check it out. But you do have that, and the band has a compilation put out in 2018. It's called Masked by Midnight: The Anthology, and there's also a live recording from 2022. Well, it was released in 2022, but recorded live in 1980, which would actually predate both of the singles, which is kind of interesting. I've not heard the live material, so can't comment on that one. But so once again, the After Dark material is out there if folks want to follow up on it. The singles have never been that expensive. The picture disc feels like it's always been one of those roughly $40 plus or minus a little bit type of items. Uh, the three-track EP with the picture sleeve usually sells a little bit higher. Again, these things go up and down. Find it on the right day, you can get it cheaper. If you're not careful, you pay way too much for it. But it's not a record I would expect you to have to pay you anything over 75 bucks for, and you could probably get it cheaper than that. All right, that leaves us with just one band to check out. This band's always had a little bit of a mythical status among new wave of British heavy metal fans. It is Hollow Ground. They released this one four-track, 7-inch EP on the Guardian label, which folks will recognize as highly collectible. A lot of stuff came out on it, including the first Satan single, the Kiss of Death one. Yeah, Hollow Ground, not quite as well known as Satan, but they did get this one release back in the day. And let's check out clips of a couple of tracks, but both of them won't come from this because there's a little more to the Hollow Ground story. Let's start with a clip of Flying High, which is included on this EP.
Waves fall to the sand. Red is like a man back onto the sea of the world, flying high, touch the sky. All out of mountain, waves from the fountain, powers of the world.
Yeah, so you hear right away, this is mythical for a reason, not just because the single is very rare, and it has always been one of the very, very rare singles. You can find copies without the picture sleeve from time to time, and they're not that expensive. You could easily get one for in that, again, 50 to $75 range, I think, without too much trouble. But a lot of copies don't come with the picture sleeve, and the picture sleeve ends up adding several $100s to the price tag. Uh, that's not going to be worth it for everybody, but that is what it typically sells for. Um, this is one of the real gems of my collection. Love it a lot. It took me an incredibly long time to find a copy of this. I made an entire video about the pain in the butt it was to find this particular single. So it's an older video. You can dig it up if you want to on my channel. But yeah, it's one of the really, really sort of prized possessions that I was able to finally track down. You hear on the clip of Flying High there, again, very accomplished vocalist. He's got a great voice. He's got some range to him as well. The music's tight, really good songwriting. The music is notably heavier than your maybe standard new wave of British heavy metal fare as well. All adds up to a really, really good track. And the other tracks on the EP are very good as well. Now, I also want to play a clip of a track titled Fight with the Devil, but that track isn't on the four-track EP because Hollow Ground, even though they didn't exist for much more than a year, maybe year and a half, they also got a chance to contribute some songs to one of the compilations on Guardian called the Rocks Snacks. So, Rock Snacks, spelled in typical 80s weird fashion. And this compilation is a little weird because it only features three bands, but each of them got to submit several tracks to the compilation. You've got Saracen, and this is not the same Saracen that did the Heroes, Saints, and Fools album, and other recordings later on. You've got Samurai, and it's not the same Samurai that did the albums later on, that did like the Sacred Blade and Weapon Master LPs. And then you've got Hollow Ground. And I'm pretty sure Hollow Ground has only gotten used by one band during the new wave of British heavy metal. So yeah, for the Hollow Ground tracks, now this is one of those compilations too, where the tracks are kind of scattered around. So it's not like you can just listen to all the Hollow Ground tracks back to back. But you have Rock On, which was on the single. And you have Fight with the Devil, which we'll check out in a second, which is unique to this compilation. You have Flying High, which we just heard from the EP, and you also have The Holy One, which is another track exclusive to this. So you've got four tracks on the EP and four tracks here, but each one has two unique tracks and two tracks that overlap. Hopefully that makes sense. It sounded kind of weird to spell it out that way. Anyway, let's check out a clip of Fight with the Devil. All right, so yeah, real barn burner of a track there. Great heaviness to it. It's one of the real classic songs of the entire new wave of British heavy metal. Reminds me a little bit of the band Crucifixion, who are one of my favorites from that scene also. This track got pretty well known in particular because it was selected for inclusion on Metal Blade Records' 79 Revisited compilation, where they did a two CD set highlighting a lot of classic tunes from the new wave of British heavy metal. Lars Ulrich helped compile that, and it was meant to come out in 1989 as like a 10-year anniversary of the scene's kind of inception. It came out a couple of years late. It took them a while to get everything lined up. Hollow Ground was easily the most obscure band featured on that compilation. It is a very, very good compilation. Unfortunately, it's gotten kind of pricey now because it hasn't been out in a long time. But yeah, overall, a lot of the bands included on it are what you would consider more of your staples. Raven, Saxon, Venom, yeah, Angel Witch, Diamond Head, etc. Hollow Ground was a really, really obscure one that they kind of, pulled out of their hat, and it ended up being one of the best tracks on a very good and very loaded compilation. So that sent a lot of people scrambling for the Hollow Ground record and drove up the price. Now, the Rocksnacks compilation has been reissued. There's a reissued copy sitting in my local record store, so this is not hard to get now if you really want to check that out. And the band has gotten the anthology treatment a couple of times as well, because there are some other unreleased tracks that didn't appear on the 7-inch or the compilation. So once again, you can check out High Roller Records. They've got a compilation that includes a little bit of the other material that was also recorded before the band called it a day. And I think it's time for this video to call it a day. So there you go. Three new wave of British heavy metal acts. We've checked out the raw sounding Demon Pact, the smoother, more 70s sounding After Dark. They remind me a little bit of Damascus, but I don't know if anybody knows Damascus. Metal Theologian will know Damascus, so that comparisons for Aaron. And then, of course, yeah, the higher octane classic Hollow Ground. So now let's talk metal in the comments down below. If some of these appealed to you, by all means, let folks know which ones you like. I try to offer a range of things. I'm not going to put, just, three bands that sound alike in the same video. There's a little bit of range. Maybe some of these you liked, maybe some you didn't. If you're a fan of any of these bands and have any trivia, if you've got one of the different compilations and you feel that one of them is a especially good anthology for people to check out, please leave that information in the comments as well. I don't have the Hollow Ground or After Dark anthologies, so I can't comment on those. Maybe you can. Maybe you can let folks know if those are worth the money to pick up, or maybe the sound quality is really messed up or something, and people should think twice before buying it. That'd be great to let folks know. All right, that will do it. Until next time, Everybody take care. And as always, keep banging your head.